Okay, listeners, tonight we're doing something a little bit different. Tonight's guest is actually one of our own. So join me while I discuss with Denny his first encounter into the realm of crypto and the unexplained. Denny?
Tyler?
So yeah, this is kind of weird that this is the first, so, kind of explain what's going on before we actually get into your story. What is, is this, so this is your first ever kind of encounter with the unexplained, in some ways? I know you, sorry, let me rephrase that. I know that you've had some unexplained kind of, I guess, ghost and paranormal of that sort.
Yeah.
But this kind of trumps that, if you will.
This is the doozy.
This is the doozy.
Yeah,
This is something that kept you up late at night, probably.
lots of times. This is the story of how I got into cryptozoology, and the story spans 19 years.
19 years?
To this day, it's 19 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And I sound old because of that. It was, let's see, a little disclaimer. The story contains other people. Other people were involved. I do not have permission as of this recording to use their names, so I will change their names to protect their, identities. My own identity is quite out there now.
Yeah.
A lot of you have found the podcast. You know who I am. Some of you, we've been friends for a long time. So let's see.
But yeah, okay. So we kind of got the little backstory, but I just want to the listeners out there, just like Denny right here, he's on the podcast right now.
Under the microscope.
Under the microscope. Don't make it sound like it's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
It's not that bad. I understand that some of these kinds of things, they get, I understand it's hard to...
There's a reservation to it.
Yeah.
There's even sitting here right now telling you for 2 days, and I'm ready to tell you it. There's a little bit of reservation because it's, as it happens, like I said, 19 years of time has passed. The first year after something happens is easy because in the first year, it's still fresh. It's still near. You go in, you basically come out of it freaked out. Something's a little different in you. You go through that for the first year, and then over a period of time, you go through, did it happen? Did I make it up? Did I imagine it? And then like in my case, you come back around to, no, I did not imagine that. I did not imagine it. I didn't make it up. I thought it was made up.
Yeah.
That's kind of the key to this story is I love irony in things, especially in life. But in this one, irony bit me in the ass big time. And I'll take you there if you're ready for it. I'll take you to where it began, how I got into it as a skeptic, and then how I came out of it as a very confused, I don't know what the word is. I don't want to say victim. I wasn't the victim of anything, but I was a witness, and there was someone with me when we witnessed it. I don't know how that person feels, but it's weird. It's really weird. I'm hoping that the listeners, especially those near this area, here closer to Kentucky, I'm hoping someone might say, I know what he's talking about, and hopefully they send me an email and let me know.
Yeah, like viewers, like we always say in every episode, if you have a story, you know somebody, you're a researcher, you like searching this stuff, contact us. encounters@kyxfiles.com.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, let's kind of get into it. If you're ready, I'm ready, man.
I'm ready. I'm
Okay.
ready. We'll go David Copperfield on this, and
Okay.
we'll start at the very beginning. It was 2002.
Okay.
It was
So that's you said 18 years. My bad.
18, 19 years.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's 19 years, but it was 2002 or close to there, and it was early summer. I remember that very vividly because it was gorgeous outside. Even going to work wasn't it wasn't bad, and I worked outside sometimes throughout the week, and then I worked basically at another company loading trailers. Mm-hmm. So I work with this guy. For the sake of the podcast, I'm just going to call him Howard.
Howard.
And we kind of just got thrown together as a little, I guess a little team. I don't know, but we were sent to do all kinds of jobs together for the company we were working for. And on one occasion, we'd been working together for maybe a week, and we kind of, when we first started our friendship, it was all about music. We talked about bands we liked. Do you like Metallica? Yeah, I love Metallica. Do you like Megadeth? Oh yeah, I love Megadeth. And it just became a friendship based on that. And it got to that point where you're hanging out with the person every day. It's that guy at work that turns out to be a good friend.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody ends up with that. It's like you always have those one people that you're like, you tolerate them. What do they call it? Like your work best friend.
Yeah.
You got those, but me and this dude, we got close. We were pretty cool with each other. And we got sent over to this other company, and they said, hey, you have to take all these old cardboard and wooden skids, and we want you to fill these trailers and just stay there until it's done, and then then you can go home. Fine. We went over there. People left us alone. It was really, really easy. We would stack up stuff, or whatever, and it was, what I mean. It was like, it was hard, but it wasn't going to kill you, because you could take all day, and it didn't matter as long as it was done right. They didn't care. So we go over there one day, and we're just stacking this trailer up, and I noticed that he was very anal retentive about how things were stacked, and it kind of rubbed off on me. So I started stacking and making things nice and neat too. And out of nowhere, one day we were working on this trailer, and he just, like I said, we've been working for a week, 2 weeks, whatever, just every day, whatever. Out of nowhere, he goes, hey, I got a question for you. He's like, if you don't want to talk about it, if you can just say so, and I'll just drop it. So I'm like, oh, what's up, man? He goes, do you believe in demons? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I've never had a reason to believe in a demon before, Mm-hmm. So at the time, I'm like, I think I might have taken the kind of the, what do you call it, the diplomatic path. I think I said something along the lines of, like, I don't know. I mean, if it's there, then, I don't know, whatever. And he's like, looks me dead in the eyes and goes, I've seen one. So
that's crazy.
When he looks me dead in the eyes, and I'm stacking stuff, I literally stop and I go, what do you mean? And he goes, I've seen one. So I'm like, okay. You got my attention. Like,
yeah,
really? I mean, just the look on his face sold it to me, mm-hmm. Or at least it grabbed my attention.
Yeah.
I wasn't completely convinced, and I'll explain that more. I'll explain that more a little bit later about how I was feeling about the story. But he tells me down in Kentucky, about 25-30 minutes south of where we're sitting right now, which is near the heart of Alexandria, Kentucky. He was camping with a girlfriend, his brother, and his brother's girlfriend. And they were off of an old dirt road down there. They had a little campsite down in the woods, and they were drinking and partying. They heard a noise come from the woods, that sounded like a woman screaming at the top of her lungs, but there was like a raspiness or a guttural sound to it. Like it was a scream, but it was also kind of a roar, maybe. And he's telling me this, and he goes on and says that they kind of just thought, oh man, it sounded like a woman being murdered. And they were laughing about it. Obviously they didn't think it was a woman being murdered. They thought it was an animal. So they continue on with their gathering or whatnot, from what I understood. And at some point in the night, one of them, and I don't recall who it was exactly. Like I said, 19 years later, there's things that are going to get lost in translation here. One of them saw red eye shine in the woods watching them. 2 red eyes staring at them. And they all kind of like looked up and seen it, and they were still kind of like laughing, but then they started to not laugh anymore. Like it was funny for a second, and then the reality of it was
reality check, kind of like it'll.
What the hell is what is that?
Yeah.
So they hear the sound come from it, the scream. The ladies in the group freak out. They're like, "What the hell is that? What the hell is that?" Something had happened where, when they looked again, the eyes were gone, but then the scream came from behind them. From what I understand, the woods were kind of surrounding them. There was a little road that got to the spot, and then it was just woods.
So, like, basically, it went like 180 on them.
Yeah, it completely flanked them, or however you'd say
like
it.
How fast did he say? Like how fast that was? Like
he
they
never
saw
did.
It, or
I got the impression from the story that it was quite fast.
It was like
startling fast.
And he never even stated if they were made any like noise, like him running.
He didn't, but now this could be an assumption of mine.
Yeah.
I assumed they had music playing.
Okay, so you might have not heard anything.
But I thought maybe they had music playing. Maybe he said that at some point. I don't know.
Yeah, I get you.
Again, I apologize for some of the missing details, but it's been a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so the thing changes sides on them multiple times.
Yep.
And they keep hearing the screams. They keep hearing the things. Finally, one of them, I don't know if it was him or his brother, had shined a flashlight at it as quick as they could and saw the thing. Standing up on 2 feet, black as coal, red eyes, snout. He described it to me almost like a deer head, like a deer's very slender face.
Mm-hmm.
The ears, everything, staring at them. And when the flashlight hit it, the eyes shined even brighter red. Like the eye shine. So I put this together later that I thought, well, the fire that they made might have been casting enough light to cause the eye shine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. If anybody out there can,
shed some light on that.
Yeah, shed some light on that for me. That'd be really awesome. The brother got freaked out. Apparently, one of the girls saw it. They got freaked out. In an instant, they're piling into their car.
Mm-hmm.
And they haul ass out of there. It's a dirt, gravel road, hauling ass, as fast as he can go. And he describes it to me, saying, as he looked in the mirror, it was following them.
Like how fast? Did he say how fast he was going?
He didn't say how fast. I believe at some point he said that he was at least going 35, 45 miles an hour up this dirt road.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently this thing was right on the ass of this car.
Damn.
Or it was like an SUV. Like I keep thinking like a Explorer.
Was it like a Bronco or something?
Bronco. Maybe a Bronco. That sounds better, actually. Yeah. It sounds more what I'm thinking. I kept thinking Bronco or Blazer or something along those.
They're kind of the same, but one's Ford, one's Chevy.
Yeah, so he's hauling ass. They're all freaking out, screaming, whatever. And then they're starting to, more of them in the car are starting to notice the thing is keeping up with them. It's right on the ass of this car. And then it's gone. Then it's beside the car keeping up with them. And then they're freaking out. They finally get out onto the road. It's a good, 20-minute drive from this spot to his parents' house where they were going to stay. They haul ass back there. They run in the house, freaking out. One detail that stood out to me was he actually said to his mom, "We saw something, and it chased us." And I remember this really vividly. He actually said that the mother said to him, "It's the devil. It's coming for you for all the things you've done. You better change your ways." I don't know. This is secondhand. This part of the story is secondhand. So
yeah,
take it how you will. I was relayed this story. I'm relaying it to you. They went upstairs to the brothers had like a big attic kind of room, and they were looking out the windows and they could see it at the edge of the woods, pacing back and forth and stopping to stare at them. And they never went outside again. I don't know what else happened that night. That's pretty much where that part of it ended for his telling. But then he goes on by telling me it had been following him ever since. And this had gone on for a couple years. He apparently was seeing this thing all over the place. If he was out at nighttime, and that was one thing that was interesting that did actually corroborate with his story, was every time I'd invited him to hang out at night, he always turned it down.
Yeah.
I gotta get home. I gotta, I got stuff I gotta do. I gotta get home, And I thought, well, at first I thought it's interesting, but then after hearing the story, it was like, wait a minute. So this dude really, he has a fear of being out at night. Okay. Fair enough. But while he was telling me a story, I still thought he was full of shit.
Yeah.
I really did. And I came to regret that feeling later on. So anyway, he said that there was one night in particular he went to, I think it was a cousin's house. There was like a John boat involved where he wanted to check on a boat that he had over there and make sure that nobody had been messing with it. I can't remember exactly the details of that. But when he finished checking the boat, it was getting dark. It was getting whatever. He was going to head out of there. He turned around and it was standing there looking at him. And he said that he panicked. He freaked out and he started literally just went down to his knees and just kind of started to curl up. I mean,
fetal position or something like that.
I guess. I just kept thinking of it as almost like a prayer. He's down and he's just kind of putting his head down and he's, he wants to put his arms up, but he can't, And he described to me that the fear was overwhelming. He'd never been afraid like that before.
He might have had a panic attack.
Yeah.
That's still how I would picture it, especially seeing something like that too. But then, saying,
the next part of it is the thing leans down and smells him and inhales him, inhales deeply right around him, and then it basically backed off and stood there and watched him almost as if it was tempting him to run. And he said that he sat there and he slowly kind of started to kind of try to move. And the thing just sat there watching him. I never did understand. It was watching him, almost daring him to move. I dare you to run. I dare you to try. And when he told me the story and I'm watching him tell it, I could see that he's shaken. But I've only known this guy for a couple weeks, maybe 2 weeks,
Yeah.
So he could be a really good actor. I don't know. How often do you meet somebody and in your friendship just beginning, he says, "Hey, you want to hear about a demon I saw?" You don't hear that. So anyway, he tells me that he slowly crawled into his car. He made a habit of leaving his car door open.
Yeah.
Because of this. He would leave the car door open and the key sticking in the ignition. And it was because he said he needed to know that he could get in and go when he needed to. and I thought it was strange, but I also found it entertaining. If I'm being honest, I thought it was an entertaining story. I mean, when I heard it, it made my hair stand up, and I was interested. I'm like, wow, even if this is fake, this is a cool story. Like, you could tell this around a campfire, and it would get, nobody would sleep for days. Well, over a period of the next few weeks, I kept making him retell the story to me. And I know he was getting frustrated, but I hate to sound like this. I'm going to sound kind of like an asshole, I guess, but I was asking him to retell it for me over and over because I was trying to catch him in a lie. I wanted him to mess up his story, and I was going to jump all over it. And I feel bad because I'm usually not that kind of person, but how often do you hear a story like this,
But I get where you're coming from on that.
Sure.
Like, especially you're younger.
Yeah.
You're younger and that happened. And,
yeah.
But still, like, I feel like any of the cryptozoologists. Cryptozoologists and just people that are just interested in this stuff, they feel the same way because there's so many people out there that just want to poke fun. They want to make a joke. They want to make up some stuff.
I wanted to make a joke of it and embarrass him because I pretty much thought that he was just completely full of it. Like, there's no way this is true. Of course you didn't see a demon in the woods, you liar. And that's what I thought. That's how I felt, and I can apologize for that every day, but it doesn't mean anything because going into this stuff, if you're not a skeptic going in, you're setting yourself up for a lot of disappointments because a lot of people are going to take advantage of you. You got to go in with a little skepticism and remember that some things are just, they're going to turn out to be baloney, And in this case, that's how I felt. That this was false. It was made up. He was pulling my leg. But after making him tell me the story a few more times, he never did mess up. The story was always the same. So I had a really good friend that I used to hang out with every weekend. Like I said, I'm going to keep everybody's names kind of, hidden on this one. I don't have permission to say their names. If I did, I would. Well, I talked to this friend. I'm like, hey, I got this friend. You gotta come up here, hang out. Let's get a couple beers, and we used to come up to my mom's house, my mom and dad's house, and we would sit in their front yard and have a few beers, just hang out, laugh. It's in the country. Nobody bothers you. It's nice. And I told him, I was like, you got to hear the story. It's absolutely nuts. I was like, I think this guy's full of shit. I want you to come up, and see if you hear something that I don't, and I just, if anything else, we'll make fun of him. I mean, in all honesty, it was like, we'll make fun of the guy. He's full of shit, whatever. So my other friend, he agrees. He's like, sure, I'll come up. So I went back to work and I met up with Howard and I said, hey man, a buddy's coming down. He's interested in this stuff. We get to come and we swing by and tell him your story. Maybe, we'll sit, we'll have a couple beers and you tell the story to him. And he's like, yeah, I mean, I guess what time do you want to do it though? And I'm like, well, let's just do it after work. Okay. Disclaimer here. The sinister part of me was trying to get this to drag on into dark.
Yeah.
I was trying to get it to go past dark. I wanted the sun to set, and I wanted him to be there. And like I said, I'm normally not that kind of person, and I do feel guilt for that, but I got what was coming to me, put it that way.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the day comes, we all meet up. We got a couple beers, on the way home, and had us a little cooler and all that. My friend shows up. Howard shows up. My other friend shows up, and my other friend, he's got a cast on his leg. And we're like, what the hell happened to you? And something happened with like a 4-wheeler or a dirt bike. I can't remember. I wish he would talk to me about this so we could remember it, or he could remind me. But we kind of sat there and they didn't know each other, so they kind of, bullshit for a little bit and got to know each other, and it was cool, and we had some laughs. And then, Howard, will you tell him your story? And he was like, oh man, yeah, I mean, I'll tell it. He's like, I gotta be quick though, man. It's, I gotta get out of here. I got stuff I gotta do. And I'm like, oh, I mean, you only just got here, you sure? And he's like, yeah, I didn't realize what time it was though, and I really, I'll tell you, but I'm gonna have to go. And finally I confronted him a little bit about it. I'm like, what is it, man? I was like, you always seem to have something that you gotta go do, what is it? Are you freaked out? I mean, we're here with you. We're here with you, I'm like, pointing to my friend with the cast, I'm like, he's literally packing. Like he doesn't go anywhere without a firearm. So, I mean, dude, you're good, bro. Like, we got you, And he literally looked us in the eyes, and he goes, I don't think it'll matter. And we're like, okay, well, I tell you what, just tell it. So he tells the exact story, just as I just told it to you guys, a minute ago. He tells the whole thing. And again, I'm listening, and I'm listening for the details, and I'm thinking, if he messes up here, I have him, and I almost had like a sinister plot at this point. I'm trying to catch this guy in a lie. I'm like, Jesus, I'm plotting against this guy who's supposed to be my friend. This is messed up, and he tells the whole story. My friend in the cast, he's sitting there and he's sipping a beer. We hadn't really got into the drinks yet. That was an interesting thing that went down in the night, And after he finished the story, we all sat there for, I want to say a good 15, 20 more minutes maybe. Mm-hmm. And Howard seemed really relaxed. Like he was relieved. Like, oh, like he told it. He got it out. He was good. And my other friend was kind of like, man, I just don't know what to make of that story, that you told. He's like, it's interesting and it's scary. He's like, but I don't know if I believe, no offense, I don't know if I believe in that sort of thing, And, I think as the little bit of time went on a little bit, we kind of drifted off the subject and into, other things, dirt bikes, guns, things like that. Everything that you talk about when you're
sticks.
21 years old in the sticks, and we're sitting there, and out of nowhere, he just kind of bristles. He just kind of like sits up real quick, and at first I didn't really think nothing of it, he just kind of said, I thought he was just, maybe it was getting a little chilly or whatever, was whatever. And he sits up real quick and he looks us, just looks at us and he goes, I gotta go. And we're like, okay. And then he looks, he doesn't say anything else, but it's here. And I'll admit at the time, I wasn't completely sold on this story. But the way he said it, for that moment, I believed him. He gets up, doesn't finish the beer we gave him, gets up, leaves his, that was another thing, left his wallet. And he had this little shitty, like, Velcro wallet. I think he took it out of his pocket so he could sit more comfortably or something. I don't remember, but it was laying there on the table. Gets up and runs down the front yard. Instead of going to the walk and down the driveway, just runs straight down the grass hill, down to his vehicle, jumps in it. It started in a heartbeat. He backs down the driveway and hauls ass. This wasn't subtle. Mm-hmm. This was, it's 1 o'clock in the morning by this time, it's whatever. No, that isn't right either, is it? We must have been there longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, we must have been there longer. It was late. I'm trying to figure that out because that's a plot. That's a problem in the plot. I can't remember the exact time it was. I know my parents were asleep, so it had to be after midnight. They would usually go to bed around midnight. And then, let's see. So during the summer, what time is it sunset? 8-ish? 9-ish? So it was probably... We must have been sitting there for a couple hours at least. I can't remember. But long story short, he takes off, runs over the hill, jumps in his vehicle, and hauls ass. So we're sitting there, and we bust out laughing. And I remember saying this, like, this was like the thing that stuck out was I literally said, like, that was a good touch. And my friend, he was like, what do you mean? I was like, if you're going to sell a story, that was a good touch. It's here. And he takes off running. You know, it
sounds like a scary movie
or
something.
It sounded like a scary movie. It was freaky, you know. So off he went, you know, and we're sitting there laughing. You know, we're cracking up over this because we're like, dude, this dude, man, you know, it's here. And I remember us sitting there laughing about that. And literally, as I said earlier, I'm not trying to sound like a saint here, but we were making fun of him. And all of the animals on, you know, my parents' place was kind of like a farm. There was giant, you know, a giant like flight cage full of ducks and some chickens. There was dogs, there's animals, you know, there's cats, there's everything. And on the farm, I don't know if anybody listening is near or on a farm, but you get used to the sounds of your animals kind of doing their thing at all hours. Ducks and chickens, they might go in their chicken coop or their little houses and go to sleep, but they never really stop talking to each other. They sit there and they make little noises and they whatever. And sometimes you'll have the odd chicken that likes to start crowing at 1 o'clock in the morning. You know, there's always something, you know what I mean? Cats will be awake, you know, you'll hear animals. We used to hear animals in the woods, you know, raccoons, things like that. You'd hear all kinds of stuff. You'd hear the neighbor's dogs barking. You would hear, at my grandparents' house, there was goats. You'd hear them at all hours. Out of nowhere, everything is dead silent, like to the point where I think I told you this before. It's like the kind of silence that would give you a headache. It's too quiet, and it's almost painful. You know, I don't know if you're the kind of person that has to have some background noise when you sleep, because if you don't, it's too quiet and it aggravates you. You know, and I know people feel like that. I myself feel like that too. I used to fall asleep with the TV on. You know, it's like
I still do.
You got to have some kind of noise there to just kind of help you just relax, you know. And when you're used to a noise, the sudden silence will startle you. It will affect you. And much later on, I'll come around to this, but much later on, I learned the significance of that silence. But the silence didn't last, because as we were sitting there laughing and goofing off, and I was starting to slowly become aware of the silence around me, a scream came from less than 30 feet away behind my parents' kennels, where we had a couple dogs. They had these big, luxurious kennels where they had, you know, their big house, you know what I mean? They had fans for the summer on them. Like, they were living it up. And right on the other side of that, a total distance of maybe 35, 40 feet at the most, we hear this blood-curdling scream. Literally, we both literally went silent and looked at each other. And I think it took us, it actually took us maybe a couple minutes to recover fully, and even to say, what the hell was that? And then the other sound was it moving away. And I remember saying, I was like, you know, what the, you know, I don't want to drop F-bombs on the podcast here, but, you know, I used a different word, but let's just say I said, what the hell was that? What the hell was that? And what is that? I mean, there's nothing else that you can even get out. You're literally, it just hits you. It's almost like being hit with like the old sci-fi, the ray gun, it hits you and you're froze, The sound hits you, it penetrates you, it goes into you, your hair stands up, you feel goosebumps, you just feel like all of a sudden you feel like your legs feel weak. Like, I don't know what to do. I remember I snapped out of it and I shot up, and my friend's in a cast. So I literally grab him, help him stand up, and I help him to the house. And later on, we laughed because we literally were dragging our cooler with us. Like, I don't know why. We left all of our other stuff outside, but we were trying to drag our cooler, and we finally gave up on it. We just went inside. We sat in my room, and we just sat there for the longest time, kind of shaking our heads and just looking at each other and just, I don't know how to explain it, what we were doing. It was almost like shock. And we started to kind of talk about it, and we couldn't make sense of it, and my friend even said, he's like, I've been hunting my whole life. And I'm like, at the time I didn't understand the significance. I was like, I mean, it was, not to sound like a smart ass, but it was literally like, congratulations. What does that mean though? And, he kind of looked at me, and he lives farther in the country than I do. And he goes, I've never heard a sound like that before. I've never, he's like, I've heard coyotes, I've heard dogs, I've heard, horses, cows, deer. He's like, a deer can make a really crazy sound out in the woods. Look that up on YouTube. If you were out in the middle of the woods and heard a deer yelling, it would freak you out. If you're not used to, if you don't know what it is. Yeah. And, he literally looks at me and he's like, I don't know what that was, man. And I'm like, I don't either. And he's like, son of a bitch, he was telling the truth? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. It's unbelievable. I never really got a chance to talk to Howard again. I lost track of him. I don't know what happened to him or where he went. I saw his vehicle maybe a couple months after this. It was being driven by a bunch of kids. I didn't approach them, but I assumed that they found it or bought it, or I don't really know, but it had a bunch of damage down the side of it. And I was with a girlfriend at the time, and I remember at that time I'd caught her up to the whole thing, and I told her, I was like, it sounds crazy, but let me tell you everything that happened. And I was like, look, that's the vehicle right there. That's his car. I don't know who those people are, but that's his car. And the amount of damage done to the side of the car was insane. Later on, I found out another detail about the car. The car was sold to these people because it was found somewhere like that. It was abandoned. The car was found sitting on the side of the road, just like they had it. The family recovered it. They ended up selling it or something like that. I didn't know that at the time. I found it out much later. The little wallet that was left behind, I returned that to his cousin, who also would work with us time to time. He said that he would figure out what to do with it. He thought that Howard had went to Florida. And I don't know. I never did get all the details, or even, I can't say I ever got consistent details about what happened to him after that. All I can tell you is we did not believe a word he was saying until we were caught, until we became part of the story. I'll say that. When we heard that scream, it came from something big. That I can tell you. I don't know what it was. I never saw it. I never laid my eyes on it. I never saw it. I'll never claim to have. I never saw the red eyes. I never saw whatever it was. I just heard it. And I can tell you, without a shadow of a doubt, just hearing it was enough for me. I heard it. I've scoured the internet ever since. And you think, 19 years ago, the internet wasn't what it is today. Today, it's a library. I mean, it's an endless encyclopedia of true and false. I mean, for being fair, it's 50-50. And this story is a big part of why I wanted to do this podcast, because right before we started to do the podcast, I told you to tell the whole story.
Yeah.
And we were talking, and then it kind of rekindled it in my brain, and I started to go back into it, and I started to get online, and I started researching, and for years I kept typing in red-eyed demon in Kentucky, and I kept searching and searching and searching for anything, and I never found anything. I just never found anything. Nothing ever popped out like, oh, these people saw this red-eyed demon. Never saw it. I typed in all this stuff, and then one day I felt so stupid. I typed in screams from the forest.
Yeah.
Or the woods, sorry. Screams from the woods. That's what I typed in. And out of nowhere, there is a list as long as my arm of people with videos, recordings of this crazy, these crazy screams. And that's what got me into the Sasquatch thing, was because one of the videos I found said possible Sasquatch screaming in the woods. I clicked it. I listened to the screams, and I said, that's not what I heard. So on to the next one. I did this for days. I think you remember, right?
You were in the truck with me.
I kept going on and on, looking and looking and looking.
And I kind of want to tell the listeners.
Yeah.
Like, he came into this story a skeptic. He left the story somewhat of a believer in this, and now he's telling me this where he's looking for the scream. And granted, he was in the truck with me, and I'm doing this is me, and I'm just kind of a big skeptic myself. I lean both ways on these kind of topics. When he actually heard that scream, when he finally found the one, I looked over, and he had no color. He went pale. It was it.
I found the scream on a YouTube channel that I really like. I became a Patreon. I think I'm saying that wrong.
Yeah.
I became a Patreon. The channel's called Thinker Thunker.
Thinker Thunker.
Don't say it too fast because it sounds like you're saying something else. Really like that guy because he's 50-50. I mean, if it's fake, he will prove you fake. If you try to hoax him, he will catch you. Put it that way. I really, really like that guy. And if you want to help us out, go over to his YouTube and tell him he needs to get on our podcast with us.
Yeah, I would love to talk to him.
I really want to get his opinion of this,
Mm-hmm.
But I found the scream, and you know what? I'll leave a little. I'm going to go ahead and play the scream for everybody right now.
Hey, this Thinker Thugger. Check this out. See if this sounds like any dog you've ever heard.
Okay, that's the sound right there. That is it. It's not exact, but we're talking 19 years later. Things, how things get, man. Remember we always talked about telephone. You tell one person, whatever. Well, you got to think that you kind of play telephone with yourself over a span of decades with memories.
Yeah,
you're never going to remember something exactly.
Like waking up with a dream and then trying to figure out what the dream.
Yeah.
Did.
Now, when I found the scream on his page, I started getting really interested then, and I started to look at all of his videos, and I started to find more screams, and then he started to analyze the screams, and that's when I started to come around to this, where I was like, okay, so he's basically able to analyze the waveforms of these sounds.
I liked it because the wave fingerprint.
Yeah.
It was really cool because he would do the same thing with different types of noises, sounds of animals. They might not be the exact same, but they have some similarities that you can kind of base your thing off of. And I was like,
There's a consistency.
Yeah, there's a consistency, and it's so cool. Like I never thought that. Your voice could be a fingerprint, basically.
Right. Yeah.
It's unique to you, but it doesn't change. Like it changes slightly from person to person, basically.
Yeah. I like his approach to it. I like that he's going into the Bigfoot thing, the Dogman thing. I like that he's going into that with from what I consider just a brand new arsenal. I really do. I feel like he's going into that with a brand new arsenal, and he's just guns blazing, and I really like that guy a lot. I think he's one of the best out there in my opinion. But it's also his fault that this whole thing is being dredged up. So I found the Scream again on his YouTube page. That's Thinker Thunker. So check him out. Make sure you subscribe. It's really interesting. And he's not paying me to do that. I just really genuinely like his page. In fact, yeah, just do it. Just go. If you're interested, if you're listening to this, you're already interested. Just admit it. You're interested. You're just like us. Go check it out. It's really good. But yeah, honestly, all these years later, whenever I think about this story, I'm like, damn it, I almost wish none of it would have happened.
Yeah.
Because there is several nights where I get this fire in me where I'm like, I got to get online. I got to research. I got to know more. So I started researching more. I found another Scream from another page, and what do you know? They match. It was a different YouTuber. I can't remember the name of the YouTuber, but I actually got off of. I kept thinking, I was convinced it was a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I got convinced because I'm like, well, the YouTube video said that it was a possible Bigfoot screaming in the woods, and then I dove in head first because I'm like, that's the scream I heard. It's a Bigfoot. Oh my God. Why would a Bigfoot be chasing this guy, or why would have back then a Bigfoot been chasing this guy or whatever? And I was convinced. I was just absolutely convinced. And then I found this other YouTube page that had a Scream, and I pressed play and I listened to it. And I'm like, well, you know what? This one sounds farther away, but that's the same Scream. It's just a lot farther away. It sounds in the distance, And I remember saying it to you. I'm like, it sounded like that, but mine was really close.
Yeah.
It was close. There was no echo over the valley coming to me. There was literally the scream, and then I heard the echo down the valley. It was nuts. Absolutely nuts. And I've been ghost hunting before. I've checked out some creepy places. I got into it. I thought it was awesome. I wanted to uncover the unexplained and understand the paranormal. Back then, I would just go out and do it. Now, I would like to do it from the comfort of the podcast, where it's not scary. There's other people out there that are investigators, and I'm happy they're there to go to the places that I don't want to go anymore. I used to.
So, what this other page? What did they say it might have been?
They said it was the Dogman.
They said it was the Dogman.
The Dogman.
So that's when you started getting into the Dogman thing.
I got into the Dogman thing, and I'm still pretty into the Dogman thing.
Yeah, because there's not that much out there.
There isn't.
Like, I know that there's a couple people out there that's been pretty, like, strong in there. Like, we had Candace on the like one of the episodes back.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, so there's people out there that do believe in the Dogman. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't want to talk about it.
Nobody does.
And I get it. Like, I'd be terrified, too, if I saw a giant freaking wolf in the middle of the woods.
What's
standing on two legs.
Another part of this story, too, that you might find interesting.
Yeah.
Is my grandmother, who she's passed now, and we miss her, but my grandmother was a full-blooded Kiowa Apache Native American. She was your your stereotypical, just tough as nails Indian grandma, and she was awesome. And I'll admit, maybe this will sound a little cliched, but I was like 20-something years old, and I was young, and I was dumb. And I literally said, I remember saying it to myself, I'm like, man, I have a full-blooded Native American grandma. I should go talk to her about this. Maybe she knows something. She's wise. I mean, dude, honestly, that's how I
Yeah.
felt. I was dumb. Like, I was like, I'm just going to go talk to her about it. So my happy ass shows up over at her house, and I was very careful not to bring it up around my grandpa because I figured he would think I was just absolutely nuts. And I avoided him on the subject. You know, I just kind of let him go off and do his thing, and then I tried to sneak up and get my grandma's attention about it. And she was so sweet, you know. And I'm like, hey, you know, Grandma, I'm like, you know, I wanted to talk to you about something. You know, I think maybe, you know, she believed in her heritage. You know, she had books on it. She went to powwows. She kept in touch with what was going on with the Native American communities. You know, she was very, very informed, and she was very proud of her culture. And I respected her a lot, and still do. You know, I still do respect her for all of her beliefs and her passion with the subject of indigenous people of America, Native Americans, the 500 nations, any way you want to say it, you know. And she's like, well, what is it, you know? And I remember she used to say, my sweet.
Mm-hmm.
She'd go, what is it, my sweet? You know, and like, she was just awesome, you know. And I said, I heard this story, and then something happened. I was like, I don't want you to think I'm crazy, but I really, really would like to know what you think of it. So she goes, okay. So she would, I remember like vividly, she would buy these gigantic hard pretzels.
Mm-hmm.
They'd come in a box. Remember those?
Mm-hmm.
They were just like, I mean, it was like busting gravel. Like they were just, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now this memory just stands out for me because she would get these, and I remember she would grab her box, and she would just give me one. You know, I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna lose a tooth, but let's do this. And she would just break off pieces and eat them, and she loved them, you know. And I sat there with her, and I told her the whole thing, all the way up, and I even told her about the scream, told her all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, And I'm sitting there. I mean, I'm sitting there. It's like, you know, I'm like, you know, I'm crunching, like, you know, like, oh my God, you know, I don't know what to say or do. You know, I feel like she's just gonna, like, you know, you idiot, would you go home? You know, like,
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there like, oh God. Well, she gets up, goes in, and she gets this little like Mandela. It's not a dream catcher, it's a Mandela. I remember that. She brings it out and shows it to me, and it's got this weird like form on it. It's almost like a wolfen kind of form, you know. It shows the headdress, the feathers, all that. And I can't remember what she called it, but she told me, she's like, this is a kachina. And I'm like, well, okay, what's that mean, you know? And she's like, it's kind of like a you know, you'd almost think it was like a curse, but it's more of a protective spirit. It's more of like a forest spirit, you know, and it has a job to do, and it will do that job until it's finished, you know. And me being a comic book kid, I'm like, oh, you mean like the Wendigo? And that was literally the extent of how much she would discuss the Wendigo. I mentioned it, she shakes her head. And she literally just looks at me and she's like, there's no reason to even talk about that. It was like a cuss word. It was literally like I just mouthed the worst cuss word in front of my sweet grandmother. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like I felt bad for saying it. And then when I decided to educate myself on the subject, yeah, it's not a particularly beloved story from the Native Americans, the Wendigo. So she didn't want to talk about that. She was very adamant that she would not discuss the Wendigo. She would discuss the Kachina to an extent, and then she was done with it. And that's the way she was. She was done and off. Book was closed. She's out. Like that was it. That was it. So I was like, you know, well, what do you think? You know, what do you think of what we heard? You know, and I told her, I was like, I swear I'm not making this up. You know, I thought it was, you know, baloney, you know, I thought it was fake, and then that happened, you know. And she's like, I believe you. She's like, but don't go looking for it. And I'm like, so you think it's there? And she's like, it's there. She's like, don't get in between it and him. And I'm like, okay, why? And she goes, we don't know what the Kachina thinks or does, but we can say for sure that he must have done something to provoke it, because Kachinas don't fly off the handle for no reason. These forest protectors or forest spirits, they don't come after you for no reason. Mm-hmm. There's always a reason. I don't know what that reason is. I can speculate, but in the end of the day, that's just speculation. There's no substance. I don't know. But that is the extent of the story, and that story changed me forever. It made me into I want to say it forced me into an open-minded point of view on the subject. I can't say for sure what's out there and what's not out there, folks. I cannot say for sure. I want to know, just like you. But then when you find out that something is out there, you think you're going to be ready.
Yeah.
You're not. You're just not going to be, because it's so outside of the normal, what you think is normal. And I hate to say it, but part of me is beginning to think lately that maybe our idea of what's normal isn't right. I mean,
yeah,
we kind of go about our routines, we go to work, we stop at the gas station, we stop at the food place, we stop and we get some things that are going to entertain us. We come home and we pick up our phones and we look at them, and we get on the TV and watch a movie, and we think that's normal, and it feels normal. It's comfortable, it's entertaining, and it makes us feel good. It makes us feel like a normal human being. But how much time have we spent doing this versus how much time we spent in the wild? I mean, our species, we spent a lot of time in the wild before we were ever civilized.
Yeah. Which
one has more history? We have an unwritten history of our time coming to be civilized, and then we have our civilized history. And I keep thinking, like, maybe these things that are out there, maybe they're part of the normal world.
Yeah.
And we're programming ourselves just not to notice it.
Yeah, we're just like turning a blind eye to something.
Yeah.
Like to everything that we came from, basically.
That's what I kept thinking.
So,
like maybe we've, I don't want to say de-evolved, because I feel like that's wrong, but maybe we've just kind of...
We got complacent. I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, we've like we adapted to avoid this stuff.
Yeah.
But
with that being said, like, are you kind of leaning more towards that this can be a spiritual creature that you kind of encountered here? Like, because a lot of people, like, I know there's like a lot of people. I know we had some people on here that thinks it's a spiritual thing, and some people think that it's a lost animal in time that literally has learned to adapt to be hidden. Like, that's what their nature is
right.
They don't want to have human contact. So
I respect their opinions.
Yeah.
And I won't sit here and say I'm right over them, or vice versa.
We both don't know.
All I know, without a shadow of a doubt, is the thing that screamed in the middle of the night and scared us to death. It wasn't existing in some metaphysical world. It was there. It was there. The reason I believe so is because the animals, they knew it was there before we did.
But another thing, too, is what I... Like, you're saying the animals knew it was there. But I've seen people countlessly say that their dog senses something before... Like, that's not even there to our eyes. So that goes to show that it could be...
I mean, we could hear it moving, breaking branches and
if it's something
snapping
like,
stuff.
If it's something like spiritual, you wouldn't really hear it walking, if anything.
I'm also embarrassed to say that I never went up
and checked. I'm just saying, why would you? Like,
I mean, if I'm being honest with you, I haven't even been to that particular spot. since. I don't go around it. I try to avoid it. I don't mean to, but there's just a feeling I get there. I'm like, I just don't want to see something. I don't want to go there and see something.
And that would be weird if you saw something nowadays, right now.
19 years later and see something, and I just don't know if I could handle it.
I feel like I'd throw up right there.
Yeah.
Throw up on whatever you saw. Like,
there's been other things, and I have other stories. Some are very, very personal, that I would tell one day, maybe, or maybe not. I don't know. But this one in particular, it took me a long time to convince myself to tell you guys out there listening, and and Tyler. I think I told you it took me 19 years to tell 5 people.
Yeah. So tell me, Denny, like, what do you feel? What do you feel that it might be?
What's my contenders?
Yeah. What are your contenders?
Okay, you're probably gonna laugh a little bit, but here's what I got. Okay, I know this is gonna sound a little crazy, but like I said, it's all speculation. I think pissed off Sasquatch mama.
You think he might have did something to?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, what if he dude, what if he was target practicing in the woods and accidentally hit a Sasquatch family member or something? You know what I mean? We don't know.
That would piss me off.
That would piss anybody off. So I thought, okay, what about pissed off Sasquatch mama or family member?
Yeah.
And they're like, you know what? I'm going to get this guy. So I'm going to chase him and scare the hell out of him and torture him, basically. Okay, same scenario. Dogman. Dogman seems to be I think I said this. There's a behavior difference between Dogman encounters and Sasquatch encounters, and it has to do with ego. Okay.
And that one scenario that you were talking about where it kind of like it was like sizing them up, like, yo, what's up?
I mean, pretty much. It was like there's an ego there.
Yeah.
Like in some of these encounters I've heard, like the dog man looks at him, it smiles at him, it what do they say, jeers at him, kind of like taunting, like, I'm better than you, I'm superior to you. You know what I mean? There's an ego that you don't really get with the Sasquatch encounters.
I'm going to teach a dog man to flip somebody off. That'd be awesome.
He probably already knows. I'm just saying, like, from what I'm putting together, I piece these patterns together. The Sasquatch seems to be more, if you see him, it's like he probably wanted you to.
So you're saying, like, okay, let's put it this way. You think that a Sasquatch is more kind of like the badass that he knows that he's cool, like he's badass.
He knows,
but
he's
he doesn't
tough.
have to, like, really show it unless he has to.
Exactly. Like, he's walking around not afraid because dude, you're walking around in the woods with bears and you're just whatever. You're tough. I mean, I don't care what you say. You're tough,
And then you're saying that the dog man is more kind of the cocky guy that's like, he's like. So are you like? It's more along the lines of, like, the predator. He's like the predator because he's like all about, like, pride and this and that. Like, he'd rather.
I think it's like that boldness. It's like almost like when I say ego, it's almost like the ego you see when you have a group of dogs and one becomes the alpha. Mm-hmm. How it kind of like, you ever notice that one alpha dog will kind of stand there like, it's not really, it won't really play with the other ones. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really, like, I can't bring myself down to their level. It's superior to them, and they respect it. They respect the alpha. They're like, hey, it's
but
cool,
that's kind of weird. But, like,
hey, Ralphie doesn't want to play ball with us, whatever. He's too tough.
But that's kind of odd, though. Like, all the, like, encounters that you've heard, that's happened. That's like how they say it happened. But are they that many alphas out there? Like,
I don't think so. My thought was more, it may not be the alpha of its family, but it's definitely an alpha over us. Because comparing us to it's superior, it's tougher, it's faster, it's stronger, its senses are better, and it knows it. It looks at us probably like we're just whatever, There's not a whole lot of
creatures.
The thing that made me think ego was that there's not a whole lot of encounters out there where someone's actually been harmed. and that's kind of a giveaway for me.
Mm-hmm.
He's not trying to hurt you. He just wants to scare you. You know, just literally scare the shit out of you so that you leave, go away. Mm-hmm. It's not like it's like a bluff charge that the Sasquatch does, but I think that the Sasquatch is doing it to get you away from others. Like, you know, you see the stories where they're out in the woods and they hear the whoop sound.
Yeah.
I swear, I think that if you're out in the woods hunting Sasquatch, and one of you Sasquatch guys out there, if you're listening, I need you to try this and then let me know if this works. As soon as you hear the whoop sound, I want you to turn the opposite direction in the woods and go that way as fast as you can. You're not running away. I think that those sounds you're hearing are meant to make you look that way while the other one moves. I think it's a distraction.
Oh.
I think it's literally like if I go whoop, that means, hey, they're coming. I'm going to buy you a chance to get away. You can sneak off. They're going to focus on me, you know. But yeah, I think that the Sasquatch is more like, hey, you know, it's probably better to avoid them. And again, not a whole lot of physical contact in the Sasquatch stories. There's, you know, they come up and they mess with tents and they bang on stuff and they let you know that they're, sometimes you see them, sometimes they see you, they look at each other. But there's not a whole lot of stories I've heard where they come up and physically rough you up.
Well, I kind of figure that too, is that why they don't want to come near us too, is that, like, if they live out in the woods, they've seen people hunting with these
guns.
Yeah, with guns. Like, they don't know what they probably don't know what they are, but they know that it kills deer.
Yeah.
And they're like, we don't have those types of weapons. We have maybe they see that and they're like, we need to avoid that. But I kept thinking it was disease. I've thought that too.
Maybe they see us and they're like, you know what? Every time we come around one of them, we get sick and we lose a family member. And maybe they can't afford to lose family members. I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's all speculation.
Yeah.
But my contenders for the Dogman or for the creature was. Pissed off Sasquatch Mama, or switch that out with pissed off Dogman, or pissed off Dogman Mama. I don't know. And then my other one would be what my grandma believed, the spirit Kachina. I guess I don't know. I kind of think that maybe Kachina is their interpretation of one of the first two. I don't know. And then number 4 contender, I think that deserves an honorable mention in this would be Wendigo, but
that's what
it always takes a really, really severe thing for a Wendigo to come.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I don't know about that one. You know?
But I've always heard that, like you said that, like in the story, he even said that it looked like a deer's face.
Yeah, he said it had the snout and it was slender, but
did it have the rack?
No rack.
No.
It was ears.
Just ears.
That's why I kept thinking maybe Dogman.
Okay.
I kept thinking the slender, kind of snout and the ears. I thought, and then the reflective eyes that are facing forward is another one too.
But personally, this is me. I guess I haven't done that much. I've always heard either yellow or amber eyes on Dogman.
Yes.
I've never heard red, though.
Yeah, I don't know if the eyes themselves are red or if it's the reflection, eye shine.
Another thing that we, I know we're really getting off, I don't think we're getting off topic here. This kind of
we're speculating.
We're speculating here. I feel like we talked about this a while back ago.
Yeah.
Okay, what happened, with a normal animal that gets, rabies or something of that nature?
I have no idea. Maybe it's eyes?
No, what I meant, the reason why it was attacking him. It's what's normally what a dog happened? It gets rabid, right?
Sure, yeah.
So maybe that's happened. It actually, in this case, this dog man had some kind of a disease or something.
Maybe.
Either, you were talking about, that's the reason why you believe that, you kind of believe that it could be, Sasquatch don't come near us because it could be disease.
Yeah.
And maybe this the same
maybe
thing
it had a disease.
had some kind of disease,
know.
and it kind of like it turns it into a ravenous like it basically turns it into.
The only thing that makes me wonder about that scenario, like
Yeah.
maybe it could be, is that we were right there. We would have been just
That's
as
true.
easy of a target. I mean, my friend was in a cast. He would have been. I mean, that's basically.
You would have left him.
No,
I
wouldn't
know.
have
I'm
done
just
that,
joking. I'm just joking. Just joking.
But in all honesty, I mean, we were basically
right there.
I mean, we were barbecue ribs, just ready to.
So yeah, it had to
pick
been
up.
a personal matter with this.
That's what I kept thinking. I still have kind of a feeling like
Yeah,
that. You know, something personal, something.
Like
But
people don't like just like. Apparently, in this realm,
yeah,
I guess like these animals, they hold grudges.
yeah, it's
And I hate to say it, like it had like especially for an animal. I
Yeah.
want to say it like an animal to hold a grudge that much. I really believe. I don't want to get it. I
it's like
really don't want to.
intelligence, you know.
Yeah, it's intelligence, and it's kind of creepy because it's tracking. Like it, other than him just tracking, but knowing where
Yeah,
being on top of that. Like every animal has to sleep. Every animal
Sure.
has to
Sure,
eat
yeah.
and do that. I'm just saying, like even being that person of ego, like you were saying,
yeah.
you have to have time to stow the ego, go do your business and live,
Right, yeah.
and then automatically he's like right on top. Like automatically he's right on top of him back again.
Yeah, yeah.
Like so, like
It was like it knew where to be.
yeah, it knew where to be.
You know.
Like he got his scent, no matter what.
That
if,
was the thing that I kept thinking was, if this thing's tracking him by scent alone, then there's no hiding from it. You know.
So with that being, like, I wanted to kind of come back to this, but
Sure.
so you said that he left his wallet
Yeah.
when he got scared.
Yeah.
He's like, it's here. He beelined it for his truck. He left his stuff, like he left his wallet. You said you worked with this guy.
Yeah.
So after that day,
No, he didn't. He didn't work.
Never-
He never came back. No.
never came back.
Nope.
Didn't even call, say like, "Hey, I'm done."
Never heard from him again.
Never heard from him.
No.
Wow, that's crazy.
It was weird. Yeah. It's
real.
still to this
And
day. It's
still-
pretty weird.
Like and the whole story ending at where seeing that truck, his truck, like
That part of it always got me, because
and
I'm like,
plus like his family not saying anything. Do they believe? Like, what do they believe?
I don't know. I've never spoken with them about it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's never been.
it's probably a source. Like, even if you kind of
Yeah.
like are speculating of what could have happened,
I'm
especially
sure they know.
if they know the whole like in
They
a way
at least know the story.
Well, yeah, you said that his mother even said something along the line.
She said that the devil is after you, or the devil's coming for you. You better change your ways. Yeah.
So that's kind of creepy. Like, I guess they just didn't want to
Yeah, I don't know.
say anything.
I kept thinking, I kept getting the idea that when I was being told the story, there was things being left out.
Yeah.
I don't know what they are, and I'm
Yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
like what I was feeling
not-
like, because we keep saying that for this to like track him for
yeah. You
like
gotta
you said
really
years.
care.
You said years, right?
Yeah, a couple years, yeah.
a couple years. It had to been something bad, and I don't want to get into that because that's so morbid and stuff. Like, because there's things that rush through your mind. I know the listeners are probably going to have your speculations. Like, I'm just saying, like in the comments, kind of be subtle with this. Don't like we don't want like have your own thoughts about it, but don't go
speculating,
too. Yeah, we're
so
speculating.
we're not-
We don't want to get on here and start talking about a lot of crazy stuff about what he could have done. That's not what we're trying to do.
We don't know.
We
so
don't
we're,
know.
you know.
We're just speculating on the fact that
If you
he.
have ideas, if you have an idea and you think it's really out there and maybe it's not appropriate for the
Yeah.
comments, just email it to us.
Yeah.
You know, we'd like to hear it. You know, but if you're familiar with the story, or you're familiar with anything similar to this story,
Mm-hmm.
please let us know. I really would like to know. Really would like to get some kind of lid on this after all this time, and
Yeah.
be able to move on to the next mystery. You know, if I ever get to, it would be nice.
Well, listeners, we're going to wrap this episode up. Like always, we would like you to like, share, subscribe. Always just kind of leave a comment. And if you have any kind of story you want to tell on the podcast, please send us a message at encounters@kyxfiles.com.
Also adding that our good friend Lee Woods, first episode, if you want to go back, check him out. He is releasing his Woods Walker coffee on his website. What was the website again?
Woodwalker Products.
Okay, check that out and get you some of that good coffee. I know I'm going to get mine. I got my t-shirt. I love it. I wear it all the time.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Thank you, Lee. I hope you're listening. If you're looking for something else to listen to, check out the Millennials Suck podcast. This is a discussion podcast, and it's hosted by our good friends Jason Campbell, Christian Barracks, Dylan Foreman, and Dylan Hall. You can check them out. Look it up, Millennials Suck podcast. Very cool guys. You'll have fun with it.
Okay, listeners, what do you think it was? Was it a Sasquatch? Was it a Dogman? Or a Kachina? It might have been a Wendigo. Whatever you think it was, maybe we shouldn't mess with the forest.